Okay, great. So thank you. And so I'm not sure if you can see my screen, but is it visible to everybody? Yeah, good. Okay. So welcome. Yeah, my name's Sam Scheikowitz, and I'm building a platform called 4B, which is a liquid democracy and sense-making platform. So I've just been, spending the last few years really deep diving into governance and different models, and so I'm just going to share a little bit of kind of how I think about things, and you know, I think I want to get everybody's kind of get an idea of what everybody's background is and interest is in this topic, so I can just direct my presentation a little bit towards you guys. So maybe if we could just sort of take turns and just tell me a little bit about what you're why you're here, like why you care about this topic. Um, and I guess I'll just go by the order of on my screen. So Fred, do you have anything you want to say about that?
Yes, sure. I'm Federico. My nickname is Fred. I'm in Amsterdam at the moment. Um, I'm a philosopher myself, philosopher and a hacker, and I'm interested in community growing and methods to engineer community that are transparent and bottom up. My experience is mainly open source, and yeah, I'm very interested in what's happening in this kind of space.
So communities and open source, bottom up governance, that's great. Peter, you want to jump in, tell us a little bit about what you're interested in, why you're here?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I am an entrepreneur and a professor at the University of Applied Science in Utrecht, the Netherlands as well. And I'm interested in how groups of people, communities, self-govern and collaborate together and share value. So that's in short.
Great. So great, welcome you as well. And Gita.
Yes, hey Slam. So I'm Ivy. I'm part of Trusted Seed and Common Stack, and I'm interested in this topic because I used to be also part of the building process of the TEC, and we've been using this approach, the participatory decision making. So I'm here.
Got it. Great. Okay, welcome. Sounds like you're really engaged and involved in it. So Les, do you want to say anything about it?
Hi, everybody. It's my first time on a group call such as this. So I'm quite big into permaculture design. I'm interested in DAOs. I have a big, long track record in community currency building using the open money model developed by Michael Linton. And in terms of governance, I'm a practicing sociocracy trainer and participant. So I'm very much into consent-based decision making, and I use that framework when I chair meetings, such as I chair the board of trustees at the Permaculture Association Britain. So I'm fascinated by what you're coming up with, and look forward to finding out more. Thank you.
Great, great. Maffer? Sorry if I'm mispronouncing names.
No, that's perfect actually. It's hard to get someone to pronounce as well. But yeah, I'm part of the Trusted Seed team. And yeah, I'm actually sharing office with Gina today at the co-working space. So I'm glad to be here with her, supporting the space. And thank you for sharing with us your talk.
Great, well, thanks. Robin?
My name is Robin. I'm a digital coordinator and project leader and facilitator. And I think this topic interests me because I've for a long time had a belief that like we have all the intellect and the capital and resources we need to solve large complex problems, but it all comes down to how do we coordinate more efficiently. So for me, this is kind of like spot on at my heart, trying to solve this problem.
Coordination, yeah, it's kind of magic, I think.
Thank you.
And Yunesi, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but is there anything, I know you're the coordinator, but if you have anything you want to say about your interest in the topic, please do. Otherwise, I'll just jump right into the slideshow.
You pronounce it perfectly, actually, my name. No, no, really, everything is good. So we are recording it, and please feel okay with starting the session. Thank you.
Great. So I think like there's a real push these days. Everybody's really concerned. We're facing, everyone, you've probably all heard the word metacrisis, the crisis of crises, and all of the things, artificial intelligence and genetic manipulation and resource overconsumption and, for loss of soil fertility and, climate change and dead rivers, blah, blah, blah. We could go on and on. And the way I see it is that, like you said, these are all coordination failures. Like we have the solutions and we have the energy, we have the capital, the resources, but we just don't have the ability to coordinate, to manage those resources and make good decisions, make sense of the problem, make good decisions, and take action on these problems that we're facing. Hi, welcome. Got some new people jumping in, and I'll just keep going. I think, unless I'll just keep jumping, keep going. So yeah, so what's up with this inability to coordinate? So if we look at our governance systems, I need to put a slide in about this, but if you think about our ability to coordinate, like our first big jump in coordination was language, right? So before then we were pointing at things and, we had the intelligence to understand each other to some degree, but once we started putting labels on things and using words, we could really start to coordinate, right? The next one is writing. So once we started to be able to actually preserve our thoughts and we started to be able to do accounting and laws and all of the things that come with religions and all of that comes along with the long-term maintenance of our ability to coordinate. You could say the next jump was the printing press, but in a sense that's true. And then the next big one, of course, is networked computers. If you think about our governance systems in the world, they're all built for writing. They're not built for network computers. They're all utterly dependent on network computers at this point, but they're not built for it. They're really built for a scenario where people are writing on ballots and proposing things on paper and handing papers around and all that stuff. And if we were to think about what would a governance system look like if we were to jump up a level of coordination and start using network computers, I would argue that at 8 billion people, if we don't jump up to the next level of coordination and really use the resources we have, we're going to die. Like we're all going to die. Like, maybe not all of us, but a whole lot of people. We're coming to those boundaries of of resources and our ability to understand each other and pollution and all these things. So and I think of it like this, really, that there's two sort of dystopic attractors. There's two real bad outcomes that are looming, like they're there, and that's chaos, war, inability to coordinate, inability to manage how we use our resources, how we pollute, things just kind of going awry, unrestricted artificial intelligence, unrestricted, you get that picture, and maybe breaking all the way down to, anarchy, and then maybe little pockets of organization here and there, but by and large, the world is chaos. The second would be the authoritarian top-down control that we see North Korea, China, like this. There's an ability to coordinate, in those scenarios where they can sort of forcefully manage the resources and the intelligence and everything. But it's also kind of an outcome that I don't think anybody really wants that outcome. So in between chaos and authoritarianism is where the rule, the governance emerges from the will of the governed. So, and that's democracy. So, but even within democracy, as we can see, we have so many democratic countries, but they are not able to coordinate either. And so if we look at democracy, there's also sort of two extremes. One is direct democracy. So that's everybody having the ability to vote on everything. I mean, that was fine in Athens, where everybody knew everything that everybody else knew. But in this world, it's impossible. There's no way that everybody could have the time and experience and knowledge to be able to coordinate on all of the things that our complex societies coordinate on. And then on the other side is representation. So the problem, as we all know with this, is that when you're voting for people, you end up voting for politicians. It's like in politics, people with actual experience and expertise never win, because of just the way our brains work. And when you have politicians involved, politicians don't know anything about anything except for their party's political stance. Maybe politics in general, but they're typically not very good at much else. And because there's so few of them, they're super easy to corrupt. In fact, because they're lawmakers and they're running campaigns, and you can donate to their campaigns, and then they'll change the law, you end up with a United States type scenario where the corruption is embedded in the legal structure. And campaign finance, you can just buy a politician and they'll do what you want. So that's not really a viable long-term option either. And in between those is liquid democracy. And liquid democracy is sort of like both, it covers the full extreme from you could vote on every single measure, and you could also delegate your vote to others. So basically what it is I can delegate my vote on any topic or any geographic area to any other person. So if I like Inacia, she's talking about economics, and I thought, wow, I don't know much about economics, but she seems to make a lot of sense. I'll go into the interface and look for all the tags, and I'll delegate all the tags, that all of the proposals and concerns that are related to economics. I'll have those automatically delegate to her. And so now her vote counts for 2. And if she is comfortable with, say, local economics, but not international economics, and she's delegating her votes on international economics to somebody else, my vote will flow through her to that other person. And so what we find is there have been a few studies on liquid democracy, and they have shown that people tend to delegate to people who know more than they do, people who are sort of smarter in specific fields. So what ends up happening is that we end up concentrating expertise onto the topics that our society faces. And it's not just any expertise, it's the expertise that the individuals feel are appropriate. So there may be some people who feel one way about economics, and there are experts that they'll delegate to, and another group feels a different way about economics, and they'll delegate to a different expert. Now, these two people have power concentrated into their hands when it comes to economics. Now, an ideal system would automatically instigate conversations between these people, these highly delegated people. So we can start to do sense making. We can start to find a way for them to find common ground and to create proposals that make sense given both of their concerns. So that's the ideal form of liquid democracy. It's never been used in a big way, and part of it is because we've never really, we've had the computing power to do this for maybe 20 years on a large scale, but it's never been in the interest of any government to do it. It's in their interest, but it just hasn't been on their agenda. And there's a lot of reasons why, but we could probably say that people who are in power consider that the system works because it obviously put them in power. So why should they change things? So it's kind of up to us. I think it's up to people to create grassroots scenarios or create alternate scenarios where people can become acquainted with and comfortable with liquid democracy. And if enough people in a given jurisdiction are using a liquid democracy platform, they could coordinate to vote somebody in who would do the will of the people, and as it's shown on the platform. So in effect, they would sort of take over that jurisdiction. And so that's kind of like my long-term goal, to be honest, is to sort of take the power out of the hands of politicians and put it into the hands of people on every level, from local and regional and state and country and ultimately the world. Obviously, there's a lot that needs to be done as far as security and identification and blockchain and all of those things. Those hurdles have to be figured out before we can really have actual worldwide liquid democratic governance. But in the meantime, we can have platforms where people can coordinate and pressure politicians to make changes that are obviously highly supported by the people in their jurisdiction. So, okay, so this little slide kind of shows that direct democracy versus liquid democracy, where someone could vote directly on the topic. They could also delegate to somebody else. And also, people can all delegate. Whereas in representation, these people here actually don't have any power other than to sort of choose a delegate. And as we all know, it's like kind of a case of garbage in, garbage out. It's like if you have to accept huge campaign donations to even be able to run, no one who's running is a good choice. No one who's running is going to be someone who is responsive to anything other than campaign donations. So it kind of puts this barrier between the people's will and governance and legal structures. So, okay. So I'm working on this thing. I've gotten a lot of feedback. So there's I'm doing a bunch of changes to the UI and the actual structure of it. I'll just give you a quick peek about it. We're kind of combining Twitter. I never used Twitter. I never liked it. But once I started looking at how the chat functions work in Facebook, Discord, Slack, and all of those big ones, I realized that there's something really interesting about how Twitter works. So we're integrating. Basically, it can have an infinite deep and infinite wide conversation. So we're kind of integrating some of that technology. And we're creating a wide variety of like proposals, statements, and so we'll be able to allow people to it'll really facilitate kind of the normal things that people do in governance, which is to collect ideas, develop them, so to create better ideas, prioritize, and then kind of vote and take actions. So that's what we're working on there. And we want to kind of test it out on families, friends, clubs, organizations, businesses, and eventually political parties. But DAOs and other organizations will be kind of, I think, the best first case adopters. So let's see here. But the long-term goal is governance, like worldwide governance. So, and it will take some work. Yeah, so we talked about a little bit about this. There's the voting systems we use are really underdeveloped, and there's a lot of science and technology around voting itself. And I did a really big deep dive into that and kind of looked at the different systems: the approval voting, ranked choice, score voting, quadratic voting, like token voting, all of these things. And I came up with kind of a way to integrate those. And I have another video on that. I don't know how much of that we want to talk about today, and if you're interested, if you want to know more about it, you can just ask me. I'll be doing questions and answer a little bit towards the end. But just as a brief summary, there are huge problems with this system called single choice voting, where you pick one option out of a list. It's just mathematically bad. And it creates a list of problems that we see. These are the very problems that we're facing in our political landscape. So, and I won't go too far into those, but okay. So, and this is kind of the voting system we're using. It's like a +5 to -5, and it integrates approval, rank choice, and score. So let me just keep going. I do want to say, actually, there's some interesting things going on in DAOs and in other organizations where people are starting to play with like predictive markets and ways of delegating that are based on trust, like expertise weighted voting and that kind of thing. And I think those are great. But the deal is that any voting system that algorithmically kind of hands over your power to another person, there should be a backup where you can go in and change that. And ultimately, if you can, it'd be great for you to be able to click a button and have it algorithmically like check your, your Twitter feed or your preferences or whatever, and like artificially intelligence supported system that would automatically delegate to the people in your network or people in your jurisdiction or your community or your DAO that you resonate with. Like you could even fill out like you could it could show who you trust based on who you follow and that kind of thing, and it could delegate power, some of your power or all of your power, to those people on specific topics. But if you don't have the ability to kind of go in and say, click, no, I don't like that. I don't like the way they voted on that one. And I want to change the vote on that vote. And I want to see how they're voting. And I want to change that one to this vote or this person. Then I could see these algorithmic voting processes having problems. So ultimately, we're coming down to that it has to have a foundation of liquid democracy. And then we can add algorithms on top of that. So we can start to allow trust-based or expertise-weighted voting or other systems on top. And those can be added quite easily. The problem, of course, is that liquid democracy is calculation intensive. So everybody's choices, everybody's expertise, and all of the delegations based on topics, based on regional areas. Like in my city, I want to delegate to this person, except if it's to do with parks, then I want to delegate to this person, all of that. That takes a lot of calculation. So we just need to, and we have the ability to do it, but we just need to build the structures. And that needs to be the foundation, I think, for all the other ways of delegating power in this new type of governance that's based on the technology that we actually have available to us. The networked computer governance systems that have to emerge for us to be able to coordinate properly. So let's see. Yeah. So why am I doing this? Yeah, I'm just like everybody else. I'm super concerned. I believe that the more broadly we can delegate our power, like so whenever there's a factor that affects people, the people who are affected by it need to have some say in it. That's my opinion. And I think we can consider that many of the failures of our governance have to do with concentrations of power. So people who are making decisions, but they don't have the input from the people who are being affected by it. And when we're making decisions on things that affect the world, like people dumping into oceans or into the air that eventually just circulate around the world, we have to have governance at the level we affect things. So we have to have governance. We have to, in a sense, have a world governance. And of course, when I say that, a lot of people think of, some, horrible authoritarian scenario where a few people are controlling everybody in the world. I'm not talking about that, of course. I am talking about where everybody has some say in things that affect everybody. So we need to be able to coordinate the needs and ideas of everybody in the group, and I believe that when there are more voices that are part of the coordination process, good ideas are more likely to emerge, and they're more likely to take wing, and extreme opinions will be sort of muffled by the broader range of opinions. So I feel like this is an idea's time has come. I think people who are in the DAO space are really aware of this, and they're all working on this very concept, which is direct or mediated digital democracy. Management of economics and governance through with the tools that are available to us through blockchain and other networked tools. So I'm not ready for beta testers on this anymore. I was doing it for a while. I got so much feedback and I'm making a whole bunch of changes. But you know, I'll kind of post. You know, we will need beta testers again at some point. It'd be great to get everybody's feedback, get people's feedback, especially people in groups who are making decisions. But you know, I'm continually trying to understand the concepts. I'm in a group now, like a classroom on DAO governance with Grace Rakamani, and so I'm here. I'm available if anybody has any questions about governance. You know, if I don't know the answers, I'll do the research and where we can do it together. And I'm really curious about these topics, just like everybody else here. And I really want to, you know, dedicate my time and energy towards figuring out how we can coordinate together and solve these meta crises that we face. So I'm kind of done. Let me just change my lighting here. Oh, good. And I'm going to open it up to questions. So would anybody like to ask any questions or say anything for that matter?
Thank you for your presentation. As said, I have to leave, unfortunately, but great presentation, good points, and perhaps we can join and collaborate somewhere, somehow. Okay, bye-bye.
Great, thank you for coming. Yeah, okay. Anybody have anything to ask? Any points to make?
Yeah, hi, how are you? Good morning.
Good, thanks.
Sorry, I actually got here a bit late, so I don't know if you mentioned this before. I am studying dynamic governance models such as holacracy, sociocracy.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel that there must be a balance between these kind of models, which are, you could say, more centralized in a way, in the sense that there are some people with power of decision in some aspects, which are not chosen by the users or by the broader group, but are part of the initiative, and the liquid democracy model, right, where there are some other decisions that are delegated to the broader community, right? My question is, if you have any opinion on which topic should be, yeah.
So let me see if I can rephrase this question just so I understand it better. So in typically in holacracy and sociocracy, you have sort of nested circles, and so decisions are being made by groups sort of outside of the whole, and kind of power is sort of focused on people who are dealing with specific topics more commonly. Whereas with liquid democracy, kind of like everybody has the ability to make decisions on everything. And is that kind of what you're asking, or?
I think the key aspect for me in sociocracy or holacracy models is that because you have these nested circles where you make decisions, but that process of making the decisions include the feedback and the discussion within the group, right? So you're trying to make different perspectives discuss important matters, especially for those decisions that will be policy making, right? Where in the liquid democracy, my perspective is that you have some organic kind of leaderships where you can delegate power, but you are not necessarily making those leaders talk with each other. They are just voting in their own perspective.
Right. So I think maybe what might answer this question is that the system that is being used has to not just be like a voting system. It has to be a sense-making system. So in other words, it has to be a place where people can propose ideas, explain why or why not, create counter proposals, right? Kind of like a brainstorming session. People can see all of the proposals. They can explain why or why not. They can get into the details, well, when, where, who, and vote on even those things. And so something can emerge from that sense-making process. A proposal can emerge that doesn't have the problems that its predecessors did. That that's it has synergistic satisfiers. So I think what you're suggesting here, and maybe I'm off topic, but it seems to me that and I 100% agree. Like voting for voting's sake is sort of like another form of violence. It's like, well, we're just going to make a decision. That's not really. What if only 51% of people like it and it wins? Like that's terrible. It happens all the time in politics. It's almost a worst case scenario, right? And politicians kind of bet on like, okay, we're going to just get this thing through. We're going to push it through. Come on, that's not how to do things. So having a process where people cannot start to understand each other's values, each other's perspectives, can create proposals that are synergistic satisfiers. That sense-making and better proposal generation process has to be embedded in the system. And truth be told, 4B at this point doesn't even have liquid delegation processes yet because we're so focused on that sense-making part. And we're trying to get the UI of proposal. Why not, alternate proposal, voting between those two. Okay, how about none of them? How about a third? Okay, now voting between three, like that kind of a process. We're trying to get that to be more user-friendly, more intuitive, and it's a difficult challenge. So, but that's the big thing that we're facing right now. Does that sort of address your question?
Yeah. I mean, it's open question, so
yeah,
I think it's difficult to
and Les, I'm going to jump to you in a minute, but I just want to say that my perspective on holacracy and sociocracy is that even when there are people who are within sort of power, empowered groups, ultimately those people should also be beholden to if they're making decisions that are affecting the whole, people should be able to go in and say, hey, I don't like that decision. So these, my opinion is that these nested circles need to be filled by people that are delegated to. In other words, the people say, hey, this person is in here because I like the way they think. And so, so it's again, yeah, I think it comes back to liquid in my mind anyway. Sorry, Les, you have a question or a thought? Oh, can't hear you. Sorry, Les, I'm not able to hear you.
Sorry about that. Without hogging the mic on sociocracy, I think proposal forming is a massive part of how in sociocratic circles decisions are made. There has to be absolute clarity on a proposal. So proposal forming is quite a laborious process, so everyone is fully aware of all the facts before a decision is made. And all the circles are actually based on a decision making for things to happen. It is around decision makers not deciding someone else will do things, but that they will, in that circle, they are tasked to perform a function, and that circle performs the function. So they're not actually voting for someone else to do something, they are doing it within themselves. I think you may benefit from doing a little bit more research into how sociocracy works, but there's something fundamentally interesting in what you're projecting. So governance is a system, and we have a system of systems. So something that addresses the wider political failures of the democracy in which we are supposed to be living.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, go ahead.
I'll close on that. Thank you.
Well, I was going to interject that I would love to, work with you or anybody else who has experience with sociocracy, holacracy. I don't claim to be an expert on those, and I also see their value to kind of kind of look through this interface that I'm building and tell me if it makes any sense at all to you. Like, I need that kind of input. So, I'll put a link where you can schedule time with me. I'll put my email, and if anybody has time and they want to sort of critique this and help me tweak it to make sense in these types of scenarios, I'd be super grateful for that.
So I will just close on this thought that what you're talking about is a representative democracy, whereas sociocracy, and I don't know that much about holocracy, but we're talking about a participative democracy, which is back to the Athenian models that you only got a vote if you actually fought for Athens. It wasn't open to everyone in Athens to actually vote. You had to actually go and fight for Athens to actually earn the right to a vote. So it's very much a participative democracy, and we've drifted into this representative democracy that somehow we give our vote away to others, and that brings in what you were talking about at the beginning of your talk, that politicians are able to harvest votes and are corruptible.
Yeah, absolutely, right, and so like yeah, I won't say much about it, but I think one of the problems is that we're all participating in this world, and so we all have to, have some say in how it goes at this point. The circle of influence, the circle of being affected by things has grown to include everybody. And so, so everybody needs to have a say. That's my thought about it. But I also see that there are scenarios where some people have absolutely no expertise, and they kind of don't have. It's a little bit of a disservice to allow to have people who are absolutely uninformed about electric generators, making decisions about electric generators. Like, doesn't make sense. And so there's different models that have been proposed, like democracy, where you have you have to pass a certain test. Like, if you want to be a representative in the topic of economics, you have to have some sort of expertise in economics, or just a general. If you want to be able to accept votes for people, you have to pass a general test on the system or on something like how the system works, how the interface works, or those types of things. So lots of ways to think about that, but definitely I'd love to talk about it more. Anybody else? Any questions? Don't jump all at once. Yeah, I mean, if anybody has more to say, like, I think we're kind of at the end here. So if you have any lingering thoughts or whatever, like you have more to question, more to say, please. Yeah.
Yeah, I also wrote it in the chat, as my audio is a bit wobbly, but nevertheless, I have two questions. One is, how much is a system like liquid democracy resilient against bad players like spammers, for example, or fake news makers and things like that, in your perception of it?
Yeah. Can I answer each one separately?
Sure.
Okay. So the first question that you're posing is a problem for every system where people are involved, right? There's no system where misinformation can systematically be eliminated. It's just impossible. We're dealing with human beings. I mean, even if it was totally run by AI, the AI could be misinformed by some false information. And so my opinion on that is that the broader the range of people that are able to engage in the topic, the less likely that you'll have sort of an echo chamber, and that you'll have the entirety of the group swayed by a specific piece of information. So my opinion is that allowing for that broad range of input is like kind of the best one good solution to the thing that you're discussing. The other is having the system or the interface be a platform for discussion. So like Twitter or like some other platform where people can not only discuss it, but also sort of vote on each other's sense-making input. So, oh, I think it's not true because X, Y, Z. Everybody votes on that statement. You can see how strong the opinion is on that, and etc. You know, propose evidence to support that position or to refute it. And so, a system, an ideal system that a governance, a network computer governance system would need to have the ability to do that sense making. What makes sense? Like what evidence do we have for this position or against it, etc. So that's how I feel about that. Does that sort of address it at all?
Yeah.
Okay. And your other question, you had another one.
Well, no, I doubt that personally. I doubt that expertise can be a good parameter to choose decision makers. I can find many counterexample. Joking one is to let the expert about war to decide if war is a good idea or not, and then
Right.
go to fight it.
Perfect example, right?
So, yeah.
But in liquid democracy, you're not handing over power to people with specific titles. What you're doing is you're saying, when it comes to war, I trust this person's opinion. So if most of the people are against war in a community or nation or whatever, they can delegate to a conflict resolution expert when it comes to war. You know, and that can be the expert that they choose, not the 5-star general, right? So it kind of ends up being that people are delegating to experts. Now, some people are going to delegate to the 5-star general, you know, no doubt about it. Now, the conflict resolution person who has gotten 10,000 delegated votes and the 5-star general who's gotten 10,000 have to sit in a room together on a call and just talk about the scenario. And the evidence for their positions are being crowdsourced, and they're voting. You can see how they're voting, if you know, on each topic, on each piece of evidence, etc. Like that's how it should work, in my opinion. So.
Thank you for your answer. Thank you.
Yeah. Les, you looked excited there. Did you have anybody else have any burning questions?
I wanted to suggest to you, in terms of a presentation, it would be good to have some kind of role play or you know, develop an MVP. You know, let's try it out on some topic, something maybe to do with the stack. Yeah, sort of how would it be? How would it play out? How could we make a decision on this?
I love
because
it.
Because what we have to, it's an active participative process you're describing and talking about it, especially with people, myself and Alex on the call, we're always going to be throwing in nail bombs. Whereas, you know, we need to play with it and see how fun and how different it is.
Yeah, I agree. You got my mind sort of spinning on how like a little miniature tool on that, like how that could work. That could be sort of recorded, and so people could see a group of people doing the deliberative process, doing the liquid democratic and sense-making process, like see how it would play out on the actual platform.
Well, surely you're doing liquid DAO, creating a token based on your democratic.
Not yet.
As your exchange.
Not yet. I'm still working out how to get people to be able to actually do the sense making. That's where I'm at. So, you know, I'm working out an interface that allows people to propose, understand each other's positions on the proposals, create counter proposals, you know, look at evidence, vote on, you know, all that stuff. So that's what I'm.
Okay, well, I do recommend you. I mean, Alex has put the a link to Sociocracy for All. There is quite some. It's worth having a look at that model, and maybe you could draw out your model based on that model rather than trying to start from scratch.
Yeah, is it you? So there's a link in the chat, and
is there a link in the chat, Alex? Is there a link in the chat?
Yes, I left one from Sociocracy role, which, just to give a disclaimer, is a place where I volunteer.
Yeah.
I'm happy to talk about sociocracy and holacracy as much as you want. I also want to clarify that democracy, liquid democracy, is something that has already been proven. I'm also leaving one link of Partido de la Red, which was a project in Argentina, where they actually were creating a political party that worked in that way. I think they made some experiments, they learned a lot, and then they moved to something else. So there might be a lot of important lessons also in that context.
Yeah, I looked at the Democracy OS and I looked at their system and also the Pirate Party's liquid feedback, and there's another group that I work with who's developing something called Flowback, and so yeah, but again, like my brain is just not good enough to incorporate all of that stuff by myself, and I would really love to get any kind of feedback, just how just any kind of help that anybody's willing to do with the flow, the actual interface. What do you click on? What do you see? What would be ideal for someone to understand the topics, to be able to provide their feedback and share their ideas and have all the information be readily available, the ability to delegate and the ability to make sense of things be super easy. Like, I could use your help. It's just me. I'm just chugging away at this thing, and it's kind of ridiculous. So, yeah, if you're willing to, let's just book some time. Yeah, we can maybe make some changes to the interface and make it something that would work better for you. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Max, welcome.
Thanks so much. Sorry, I was on the call, but couldn't not stop by and check out what you're discussing.
Yeah. So we covered quite a bit, but I guess it's recorded. So, yeah. And any other questions? Maybe another 5-10 minutes, we can answer any other questions that come up.
I'm just going to say thanks very much, Sam, and I really wish you the very best. And if you wanted to have a word with Unesi about how to maybe take this forward, I'll be happy to drop into the next call, and hopefully Alex can join me. That's great to meet you, Alex, and thanks, Sam. And everybody, I'm off. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Great. Look forward to it. And so I guess if nobody else has any questions, we can call it a day. I look forward to hearing from you all or reaching out. And Inesi, anything you want to add before we finish?
Nope, just say thanks for hosting this space with us, having this session. I think it was really informative, and it was interesting to see different faces in this session. So nice. Well, as I said, this is like seems like to be the last one for the open month, for our Protopian month. So we hope to see everyone again on our closing day, which is going to be on Tuesday. So we will have a very interesting long session, but with so many things to rediscover, to ask, to answer around our main question for this Unconference. So thank you so much, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.